Hello everyone, and welcome to my review for part 1 of the Golden Age arc. As I've mentioned a couple times, I've done a few community posts. I'm going to be doing arc reviews, and since some Berserk arcs are kind of long, I'm going to be splitting them into parts. So I'll cover multiple volumes. For today's video, I'm going to be covering the first chapter of the Golden Age arc up until chapter 23. It's kind of confusing to think of what chapter it starts on, because you don't get a little ways in until it's chapter 1. Kind of weird. I understand, like, Berserk went through a few changes before it got a quote-unquote normal serialization. I don't know all the details on it. Like, the early chapters were really long, and then after the first few, they started having normal-length chapters, so I don't know, but here we are. So the events that I'm going to be talking about in today's video are going to cover from the start of Guts' life until right after his fight against 100 men in the forest. And we have a pretty decent amount of stuff to talk about. So we have a few characters to talk about. I feel like the big one, the big two to talk about so far would be Guts and Griffith, but also some of the other general stuff. But I'll start off by talking about Guts. So we get a pretty in-depth look at Guts' background and his internal thought process. As some people have described it, just about anything bad that can happen to a person has happened to Guts. Not all of the terrible stuff has happened yet, but you know. Your mom dies when you're 3, you're adopted by an abusive father. Well, I mean, it's his biological mom died before he was born, then his adoptive mom died when he was 3, then he was taken into Gambino's care, quote-unquote care, and Gambino was not a great dad. Donovan happens. I feel like that's the biggest embodiment of the fact that Gambino is not a good father. And then you have Guts going off on his own, then joining up with the Band of the Hawk, and how that affects his mind, his thought process. It's all very interesting, and you really feel for Guts as a character. I really appreciate the way that Miura portrayed Guts' trauma and the long-lasting effects of it. Because the thing with Donovan, that haunts his dreams for a while. Killing Gambino, even though it was in self-defense, that haunts his dreams. Which goes to show that Guts still cared about Gambino in a way, even if Gambino didn't care about him, because Gambino was his father figure. He didn't have a dad other than Gambino, as shitty as Gambino was. So it would make sense that him killing Gambino would really haunt him in the years to come. And then even the stuff with, like, Nosferatu Zod, where it's like, holy shit, there are giant demons. There are actual mythical monsters that exist in this world. That's fucking terrifying. So I greatly appreciate the fact that Miura portrays this trauma in, like, a fairly realistic way. It makes sense why Guts is always like, don't fucking touch me, I don't want you to touch me. Because that's all really well done, and I love the way that Guts builds his relationships with Griffith and the rest of the Band of the Hawk, seeing him going from someone that is a lone wolf, doesn't like working with anyone, doesn't trust other people, to someone who has an actual camaraderie with the other members of Band of the Hawk, someone who trusts Griffith with his life pretty much, is willing to just do whatever Griffith says, though that seems to be an effect Griffith has on everyone. Like, I want you to go kill a guy for me. Okay. The way that he's now willing to, put his life on the line for his fellow soldiers. And Campfire of Dreams, I believe that's the name of the chapter. Chapter 23, I think. The last one that I read for this review. And I accidentally read one more, but only covering up through the Campfire of Dreams. That chapter is really good, because it shows how Guts, although he's part of the Band of the Hawk, is still different from all the other people there, and that all of these people have their own dreams and motivations, whereas Guts doesn't really have one. Like, he's just kind of there. He's just kind of there doing stuff. Guts's analogy that, oh, all of those little campfires make up this big bonfire that is Griffith. All of their dreams are contributing to fulfilling Griffith's dream. And me, I'm just here to, sit down and warm up by the fire for a little bit. That is a fucking fantastic metaphor. Fantastic figure of speech. I don't know. I don't remember all my literary terminology. It's good. It's great stuff. Just 20, well, no, with the other stuff. However many chapters I'm into Berserk, including the prologue chapters or whatever they're called, Miura was a genius when it came to this stuff. Like, he truly possessed a great talent, not only for art, but for writing. So this just reminds me that I'm really glad I decided to do this read-through now, and that I can appreciate Berserk in full. There is really so much to it. Beyond the surface level stuff of just a guy with big sword goes around killing shit in really badass fashion, there is plenty of that, trust me. But I really love how there's so much depth and emotion beneath the surface of that. A lot of it's really compelling, it's really well done stuff. Now, Griffith is an interesting fellow. Did he do anything wrong? Good question. I'm not sure we've gotten to that part yet. We will get to it eventually, in later reviews. But Griffith is a pretty fascinating character, because he's essentially perfect. Like, from an outsider's perspective, watching Griffith, he is literally a fucking perfect human being. It is very understandable as to why people are so drawn to him and feel so compelled to follow him. He just kind of has all of the qualities for a leader or a hero. I find his viewpoint on his own dream fascinating. And that, listen, I will do literally anything to achieve my dream. I don't give a shit. I don't feel bad about other people losing their lives or losing their dreams caught up in my journey to achieve my dream. But it feels wrong that I should achieve my dream at the cost of all of these other people and just nothing happen to me. It doesn't feel right. So I'll get fucked in the ass by an old man so we can get money. It's interesting. Griffith is a very interesting character. I want to get through more of the Golden Age arc before I talk about him more at length. I know what happens. Well, we already know, like, he becomes femto and all. But more of his mindset leading up to that, his ideology, I'm very interested in learning more about that, so I assume we're going to get more knowledge about it as we go forward. To talk about the Golden Age setting in general, I didn't expect to be as interested in it as I am. When I had heard that, oh yeah, like, this first chunk of the story after the Black Swordsman arc is basically just, there's not really any fantasy stuff. It's pretty much just medieval Europe, and then, like, Zod and a few other things show up. But, like, for the most part, it's just, like, humans fighting each other. And I'm like, that's alright, I guess. But I'm more interested in Guts fighting apostles and shit. However, whatever it is, the way Miura did it, I actually find very interesting. I assume it's the fact that, well, first of all, most of the human enemies they fight are, well, on the battlefield at least, they've got, like, fucking cool, like, anime armor designs. Like, you've got dudes dressed up as a goddamn rhinoceros, some dude dressed up as a fish or whatever, I don't know. He does something, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's, it's Griffith's ambition, it's his desire for victory, something about it. It just makes it much more compelling than I thought it would be. I actually find the conflict between Midland and Tudor to be kind of intriguing, which I did not expect. And then you sprinkle in a smidgen, a little sprinkle of the fantasy mythical creature stuff with Zod. Basically just Zod at this point in the story, but it's Zod, the fucking coolest guy ever. Nosferatu Zod, the biggest badass in the world, for now at least. He's awesome. Who doesn't love Nosferatu Zod? He's the apostle. When you think of apostles in Berserk, there's like a 99% chance that you're gonna think of Nosferatu Zod, because he's not the first big one that Guts fights, but chronologically, in his timeline, he's the first apostle that Guts fights. And he's the coolest one thus far. Snake Lord, you're decently cool, you're pretty cool. The Count, I mean, you could take him or leave him, really, when it comes to the design. But Zod, big badass guy with a big sword, kind of like Guts, and he turns into a big generic demon, quote-unquote. But for some reason, this generic demon stands out much more against all these other way more grotesque, fucked up looking demons. He's just a big dude with goat feet and a tiger head, I guess. Actually, what kind of big cat is Zod's head? I'm not actually sure. What the fuck? Yeah, like he's a big kind of generic-y looking demon, but he's awesome. He's fantastic. That's the thing. Whenever most of your demon designs are fucking anything but generic, the one normal-looking demon always stands out the most. So I guess that's why Zod is really the apostle. He's the one you think of. He's awesome. He's the best. Though actually, as someone who has watched the old anime version of the fight with Zod, I think I actually prefer that. Maybe it's the lines. The Berserk dub is actually pretty good from what I've heard of it. And I kind of like the way that the fight is done in the anime a bit more. Though, I feel like that's what anime is supposed to do. Maybe it's also just because these Dark Horse scans cut the spreads in half. Like, they did not make any effort to put the pages together as most current digital, versions of manga do, which is unfortunate, because whenever you get to a really fucking cool spread, it's cut in half with a line. Some of them are reduced, some of them are not. It's unfortunate, makes it a little harder to appreciate the art, but you could still kind of get the big picture if you squint hard enough. But yeah, so far, I understand. I get why people like the Golden Age arc so much, because there's really no problems with it thus far. It has, like, no flaws at this point in the story. So, needless to say, I'm very excited to read some more of it, and that's what I'm going to do pretty much right after I'm finished recording and editing this review. So, yeah. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I'm doing these Berserk arc reviews all the way up until I catch up with the series. So if you're interested in those, I'm going to be doing more of them on here. I do have my main channel, of course, which you can check out, but I'm uploading this here because my main channel has 2 strikes. So if you guys could subscribe here, that'd be pretty great. I plan on getting this one to 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible, so I want to see how long that takes. We've gotten it pretty high in just the first, 2-3 days? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, with that, that's all I have to say. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.